Hello, I'm Benjamin Sanchez. I'm an attorney in Houston, Texas. Welcome to another edition of Legal Grounds Live. Today, I want to briefly discuss some money tips to help you when purchasing a car. Yesterday, we talked about some things you should do before you purchase a car. Today, I want to talk about the financial aspect of buying a car and give you a couple tips that may help you. Now, in Texas, as I explained, we have an as is policy for purchasing used cars. There is no limit law when it comes to used cars. Most car dealers and sellers sell a car as is, unless they make a misrepresentation or there's some sort of warranty attached, whether it's already there or you buy it. Pretty much you're left to your own devices when purchasing a car. So if you get a dud, you're out a lot of money unless you potentially take these actions. The first tip I want to give you today is really about saving some money when you purchase a car. And that is this: is that the worst thing that you could do, I think, more times than not, is actually use the car dealer's uh, finance department. Now, a lot of the small car lots will do, quote, self financing. However, that financing that you take through those small car lots are really high interest and really onerous terms. And I'll get into that in just a little bit. A lot of the larger dealerships will use their finance department to search for different loans for you. So they may not necessarily be in house financing, but they will search different lenders to try to get you a loan. Now, regarding the small car lots, when they give you a loan, not only are they charging you high interest, but many times people have come to me complaining that they were a day or two or three late on their car payment and the car was repossessed. The car was repossessed by the small car lot and they don't understand why that repossession happened so quickly. A lot of the small car lots, their financing in terms give them the power to immediately take your car as soon as it's late. And in fact, that is a way that a lot of them operate their business. They are in the business of getting as much money down as possible and then repossessing the car as soon as you're late. And then they turn that car over and over again. In other words, they don't really want you to be successful in paying that car. What they really want is for you to get as much of a down payment as possible and for you to default, because then that allows them to repossess the car, sell it again, and get as much down payment from someone else, let them default, repossess, sell it again. But you have to be aware of that. Whenever you have a car lot and you're using their financing, you can't be late because they are in the business of repossessing and reselling the car. Now, the other thing that large dealerships do is obviously they shop your loan around, and too many times they allow you to drive off the lot thinking that you have got a loan, but really what they have is they just have an intent to actually get the loan. And many times, what ends up happening is that they can't get the loan. You end up not being approved, and they call you back and they say, "We need the car back." And so, what you thought was a done deal ends up not being a done deal. So, what's the best way to avoid those scenarios? Well, that is to go into the dealership with a small car lot with your own loan in hand, with approval from a bank or credit union that you've already gotten a loan through. Now, not every bank is bad. I mean, credit unions are better in terms of their rates and terms, but there are some small local banks that will be fairly good for you. But either way, those loans tend to be better in terms of interest rates and terms than the loans that you get through any kind of dealership, whether that's in-house financing or something that the dealership looks for. So that's my first tip, is to actually go in with your own loan pre-approved. Number two is, as we discussed yesterday, a lot of times you come out from a car purchase, especially a used car, and you realize it's a dud. You realize there's something wrong with it. And by the time that you get it back to the dealership or the car lot, they just don't have the money or they're playing games. So another thing that I see a lot of my potential clients doing is they put a lot of money down and then they finance a small part of it because they can't actually pay the whole thing off in cash. Well, and then when something happens with that car turns out to be a dud, and the small car lot has already spent the money and is not willing to make things right or undo the transaction, well, then they're out that down payment. So my other suggestion is this, is if you have to use in-house financing or the car dealership's financing, especially on a used car, I'm really talking about used cars right now, that you put as little money down as possible, and then you pay it off early. And why do I say that? So, for example, the other day I had someone tell me that they were buying a car for $3,500, but they didn't have that last $500. So they put $3,000 down, and they financed the rest, basically payable over a few months. Within a week, a few days, I think, that car showed itself to be what it was, which was a bad car, and it just was not worth the money. However, the car lot played games with them, and basically the lead was out $3,000. Now, if that person had switched it and only paid the $500 and made the $3,000 financed, and they would have the option, obviously, to pay that off early. But then if the car turned out to be a dud, they would have only been out $500. So you see, if you're going to finance anyway with the dealership or with the in-house financing on the car lot, then you might want to consider not succumbing to put as much money down as possible, but to put as little money down as possible, so that you don't end up with a dud of a car and you're out a lot of money. Now, obviously, if you get a mechanic to check out the car, like I suggested yesterday, then your chances of not getting a dud of a car are much better. But to the extent that you just don't want to get a mechanic, you don't have enough to get a mechanic and put down on a car, put as little down as possible, especially when you're going to these small car lots, and make sure that the car is actually good. Okay, if it turns out to be a good car, then you can usually pay that off early. Check the financing agreement, though, because sometimes these companies will play games and they will say that you owe a certain amount of financing interest regardless of when you pay it off. So then paying it off early doesn't really do you any good because they're going to charge you a lot of interest. But, we can't control every situation, but I do try to give you tips. And I just see too many people putting large chunks of money down on used cars only to find out that the used car wasn't worth the purchase. And when they tried to get that car, the transaction undone, they try to get the car back and get their money back. There's a lot of legal difficulties in that situation. And now they have a bad car, plus they're out all of that deposit money. But if they had only put down a little deposit, at least the sting would be a little bit less. So those are my 2 tips for today. I hope you enjoyed that and that you really take those into heart. Try to get your own financing first before you go into a car dealership. And if you're going to buy a car from a dealership using their financing, especially these small car lots. Try to put as little down as possible so that if you run into problems, that you're not out all that down payment money. I wish you a good day. Again, this is Benjamin Sanchez, Legal Grounds Live. Make it a great day. Bye-bye.